What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to look forward, I mean way forward, into the future and try our best to predict out of a bunch of movies that maybe we don't even know what they're going to give us yet, but predict what are going to be the Best Picture selections for the 2021 Oscars. Now, obviously, this is going to be so off base. When the nominations come out, you're going to look back to this video and go, what in the world was he thinking? But this is part of the fun about doing something this far in advance. And if you guys enjoy this video, be sure to let me know and hit that thumbs up button. And we will also do other videos, Best Actor, Best Actress. We may even move into some technical categories. But this is something I want to try out because, one, I love talking about the prestigious movies, and after something like Parasite coming out and winning Best Picture, you know, and Oscars that we rarely get one that delivered, for the most part, there were still a few I was like, okay, but in terms of Best Picture, I was really happy with the nominees. I was really happy with the results last year. So let's keep that trending. Let's select the best movies. Now, in today's video, I'm not going to give you guys what I believe the best movies of 2020 are so far, because none of the ones that I have watched are really Oscar-worthy, but I am going to try my best to select and predict based on the talent, whether it's directors or actors or people involved with the film, and really what a lot of people are speculating. I've seen some people on Twitter give their really early Oscar predictions, but today we're just focusing on Best Picture. And since we haven't gotten 10 for quite some time, and we got 9 this past year, I'm going to give you guys 9 nominations. Technically 10, but my 10th, you'll see why I'm not really including that in the top 9. But first, I want to give you guys some honorable mentions. I sat and debated this for so long. I had this giant list of movies, films that I see having potential to get nominated. Now, obviously, when it happens, you're going to see some movies that I don't even talk about. That's because there's always one or two that come out of nowhere and completely shock you. But here are some of the films that I believe have potential to get into that Best Picture category. This first film is called Nightmare Alley. Now, you recognize the name Guillermo del Toro, former Best Picture winner for The Shape of Water, and this film came oh so close, and this is absolutely one. Now, I could say this about all of the films on this list, so I won't say it anymore, but this is one that could get very close, if not squeeze into that. It's all according on how it ends up. We see here that it's all about a corrupt con man who teams up with a female psychiatrist to trick people into giving them money. But here's the thing. It's a remake of a 1947 film. Now, it's not very often that we see a remake get nominated for Best Picture. Even though there is one on my list, when I get to my list that is technically a remake, it's very rare that we see one or more, or even one, get in there like that. Now, is this something where history points in a certain direction, especially when you have a director like this at the helm and you have actors like Bradley Cooper and then you have Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara? No, that won't matter. It all comes down to the execution of this concept, but it does feel like a film that could get very close. Then we come to another director that was recently nominated, and this film is called Da 5 Bloods. It's directed by Spike Lee, starring Chadwick Boseman and Paul Walter Hauser from recent Richard Jewell fame, as well as Giancarlo Esposito from, we all know, from Breaking Bad, but obviously things like The Mandalorian and a bunch of movies as well. But this is a film all about a group of veterans from the Vietnam War who return to the jungle to find their lost innocence. Another director that recently got nominated for Best Picture that I'm not quite putting in here, but this film points to the fact that it could get very close. It all, once again, comes down to, and the films that I'm putting on the honorable mentions could easily be as good as I hope they will be. I just have 9 movies that I think are more Oscar baity than something like this film. But we've seen before, Spike Lee is either divisive with his films in terms of reception, or something like BlacKkKlansman, most people really enjoy it. It gets that nomination. I think this could be in that same boat. Then we have a film called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. This is directed by Charlie Kaufman, and look at this cast. Jesse Plemons, Toni Collette, and Jessie Buckley. An unexpected detour causes a woman who is trying to figure out how to break up with her boyfriend to rethink her life. Very simple, but we see it. Charlie Kaufman. It's been quite a while since since a movie has been in the conversation directed by him. So I'm interested. Don't know where this is going. I think it's been 5 years since he's directed a film in general, but very good possibilities from a movie like this. Next up, a film that is in my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year. Doesn't necessarily mean I think it's going to get nominated for Best Picture, but let's face it, movies don't have to for us to really enjoy them. This is a film directed by Edgar Wright, and Edgar Wright, I think, is one of the best filmmakers working right now. I just don't know what the tone necessarily is going to be. It says drama, horror, thriller. The Oscars don't tend to take horror movies as serious, but this stars Thomasin McKenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy, Terrence Stamp, and it's described as a young girl passionate about fashion design. She is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s, where she encounters her idol, a dazzling want-to-be singer, but 1960s London is not what it seems, and time begins to fall apart with shady consequences. Sounds incredible. Doesn't sound as much like an Oscar type of film, but you have a director like Edgar Wright and talent underneath him. There's a possibility here. Just couldn't quite get it into that top 9. So a couple of reasons why I left some of these movies off. In this particular case, it's the fact that, one, I already have a musical in my top 9. And that's not to say 2 musicals can't make it in, but we rarely see something like that. And the release date for this film is June 26th. But I think In the Heights has a good possibility. It's all according on how the reception is. We know that Lin-Manuel Miranda is very famous for this story in particular. Other stories, absolutely, but this is one that a lot of people are excited about. John M. Chu is a really, really great director. You have a solid cast. I like the trailer. I think this film has the potential to be a crowd pleaser. It's based off of the Broadway musical in which a bodega owner has mixed feelings about closing his store and retiring to the Dominican Republic after inheriting his grandmother's fortune. Sounds great. Love the premise. I think another musical gets in over it, but it has a great chance, as well as, and we're bringing up these directors, and we have a lot of famous, iconic directors directing films in 2020, and this one is Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott directing a movie called The Last Duel. And it's all about King Charles, who declares that a knight settles his dispute with the squire by challenging him to a duel. Ridley Scott, obviously, a movie like The Martian got nominated for Best Picture. And then you have a cast: Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Adam Driver. Are you kidding me? Some of the biggest actors working right now. If things work in his favor, this film has a great chance. The next one is called On the Rocks. This is an adventure comedy drama. You see the name Sofia Coppola, and you mix that with Bill Murray, Rashida Jones, Jenny Slate. Obviously, we see comedy in there. That's one thing that slightly prevents it from getting there for me. We rarely see comedies nominated for Best Picture. Something like A Bridesmaid, sure, but it has to reach those levels, and it has to be a good story. But with a story like a young mother who reconnects with her larger-than-life playboy father on an adventure through New York, it sounds like it could have Oscar potential. I mean, from the director to this cast and Bill Murray being in a movie like this, it's actually pretty exciting. So On the Rocks has a chance. And here's another one from a director who has been there before. It's called Hillbilly Elegy. And being from Kentucky, I feel like I can relate to this, but it's a man who recalls his life growing up in the Midwest with Appalachian values. It stars Amy Adams, Haley Bennett, Glenn Close. You have an Oscar-esque cast. You have Ron Howard, who's done it before, like I said. I'm keeping it off because Ron Howard's been a bit iffy as of late. It's according on what route he goes. But the movie itself sounds interesting. Represent. And then we have a Nomadland, directed by Chloe Zhao, starring Frances McDormand. That's the name of note. It's all about a woman in her 60s who, after losing everything in the Great Recession, embarks on a journey through the American West, living as a van-dwelling modern-day nomad. Chloe Zhao from The Writer, Chloe Zhao from Eternals. What is that, 2 movies this year? That's pretty impressive. We'll see how Eternals turns out, but Nomadland sounds like it. My fear is, just like The Writer, it just kind of goes underneath the radar, and not a lot of people talk about it. It will probably end up being very good, if not great. It's just how much recognition does it get, and what studio ends up picking it up. So here's my cheat. I said I was doing 9. The only reason I'm not including this in my top 10 is because, well, I guess it is technically kind of number 10, but we normally don't get 10 movies nominated for Best Picture, even though they say that is a possibility every single year. It just doesn't happen. But David O. Russell is a director who's been there, and he's done that plenty of times before. He's had plenty of movies and actors and actresses nominated. He is a very, especially movies like American Hustle and The Fighter. I mean, the guy's done it. But you look at who he just got cast in this film. Christian Bale, Michael B. Jordan, Margot Robbie, and they're even saying he's looking at other actors like a Mike Myers. They're trying to get Robert De Niro. I mean, this cast is stacked. Here's the thing. We don't know anything about this film. We don't know the title. We don't know the name. We don't even know if it's coming out in 2020, and that's one of the reasons why I left it off. Now, some of these other films I've talked about, they could get pushed as well. But David O. Russell is a guy who's known for creating these films that appeal to the Academy, and I feel like with this cast, he has a good opportunity to do that again, even though I don't know what the movie's about. So that's my number 10. Good possibility if it does come out this year, but we just don't know. That's why I'm crazy for doing this. Now, this is the one that I'm the most hesitant about. It is my most anticipated movie of the year, but it's the one that I have a lot of reservations putting it on this list. But I feel like with this cast, and I feel like with the opportunity that Denis Villeneuve has to reshape what we know as a blockbuster, and I've heard the story doesn't necessarily lend itself to that, but what it does lend itself to is a slower-paced, more epic story that's more in tune with what this filmmaker and Denis Villeneuve does. And that's why I feel like Dune can do that. It can be a blockbuster, absolutely, but it can also be as brilliant as I hope it will be. So it's based off of the science fiction novel. It's all about the son of a noble family entrusted with the protection of the most valuable asset and the most vital element in the galaxy. Now listen to this cast. Rebecca Ferguson, Timothée Chalamet, Jason Momoa, Zendaya, Josh Brolin, Dave Bautista, Oscar Isaac, Stellan Skarsgård, Javier Bardem. I could go all day. How do you not create an epic movie with this cast and this crew, my favorite director working right now? How do you not do that? We saw Blade Runner 49 not get the Best Picture spot. Now, a movie like Arrival did, but Blade Runner 49 I would actually compare a bit closer to something like Dune because it was based off of the IP that everyone knew and recognized, and I thought that movie was brilliant, but people didn't look at it as brilliant. It was also a sci-fi. So this has a hurdle for sure. I hope it gets there. I really do, but I just want people to acknowledge that Denis Villeneuve is as good as I believe he is. Maybe this is more of a fantasy for me at getting in, but I don't know. It's just a hunch. I'm putting it on there. And this one's also kind of like, I'm going to shoot my shot and see what happens. It just sounds Oscar bait. And it says it releases May 8th, and it's another one where the date just kind of, all right, are we going to get an Oscar push, even though it's going to be a bit old when Oscar season rolls around? But we've got Tom Hanks. We've got a movie called Greyhound, where during World War II, a U.S. Navy skipper must lead an Allied convoy being stalked by Nazi U-boat wolf packs. And we have a newish director, but Tom Hanks helped write the screenplay here. Based on a novel by C.S. Forster. It has all of the makings to be almost what Bridge of Spies was, and that's the thing about choosing something with a somewhat unknown director, is you just don't know how it's going to turn out. But I have that feeling when I look at the name and the description and the fact that Tom Hanks is the star. We'll see. We'll see for sure. But I'm putting it on my list. And then we come to Adam McKay's new film. That's right, Adam McKay. Vice, Big Short. I love The Big Short. Wasn't as high on Vice, but he got nominated for Best Picture for that film. And you see the description, entrepreneur Elizabeth Holmes creates a biotech company that skyrockets her to fame with an estimated value in the billions. Now, when a federal agency begins to investigate the company, her integrity is called into doubt, starring Jennifer Lawrence. It's another biopic. It's a drama. Comedy is not listed on there. I'm sure that will be a factor, but it looks like Adam McKay is going even more into the dramatic territory, and from what he's done so far, I don't see how he doesn't get this to the level, and I think he's a great director, and obviously J-Law is gonna push it over the edge. And then we have Mank. This is a David Fincher film. This is a Netflix movie. It could be a better, even more of an opportunity for Netflix than what The Irishman was. So this follows screenwriter Herman J. Mankiewicz as he is developing Orson Welles' iconic masterpiece, Citizen Kane. Let's scroll down here and look at the cast. Oh, Lily Collins, Gary Oldman, Amanda Seyfried. Just, come on. don't know how this doesn't rack up awards at the award ceremony, or at least nominations from one of the best living directors, in my opinion, in David Fincher. We know the Academy loves biopics, and once again, I'm not choosing based on my most anticipated movies, even though this would definitely be up there. You have to go with what you think, and I think David Fincher he has a pretty good shot. When doing videos like these, you have to go with what screams Oscars. You have to go with the cast mixed with the crew, mixed with the director and the writer. And Aaron Sorkin, who is known to be a phenomenal writer and recently proven himself to be a good director, is directing a movie called The Trial of the Chicago 7. It's the story of 7 people on trial stemming from various charges surrounding the uprising at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois, starring J.C. McKenzie, Jeremy Strong from Succession, Sacha Baron Cohen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who has returned, Michael Keaton, Eddie Redmayne, Yahya Abdul-Mateen. This cast, this crew, this director, more importantly, though, this writer. Aaron Sorkin is a brilliant writer. This screams Oscars. Has a release date of October 2nd, which is a little early, but doesn't matter. I think this movie is almost a shoo-in. We just have to see a trailer. Now, most of these movies have not had trailers thus far. We don't really know anything about them beyond what we've seen behind the scenes. We recently got a trailer for The French Dispatch. We know Wes Anderson, the Academy normally really enjoys him, loves him, and this is a film, even though the release date is July 24th, expected at least, this is a film that I see with a good potential to get nominated for Best Picture, just from what we've seen from him before. You guys saw the trailer, so I don't need to go into it, but this cast is outstanding. Timothée Chalamet, Saoirse Ronan, Elizabeth Moss, Bill Murray, Edward Norton, Willem Dafoe, Christoph Waltz. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness, this screams Oscars for me, and even though the trailer closely resembled what we've seen from him before, I think this story is what's going to bring it to life in a very different way. So I'm excited. I'm a Wes Anderson fan, and I think this movie has great potential. Here's another, I guess, out-of-the-box prediction. It shouldn't be, because we know Taika Waititi. We know he's a brilliant director and writer, but here's the thing. No one at the beginning of last year saw Jojo Rabbit to get as big in the awards world as it ended up being. And now, he's on this run that is leading him into this film that I believe, is already finished and it's in post-production. Now, this will be another comedy. It's a sports based off of a true story, but you look at the cast, Michael Fassbender, Elizabeth Moss. It's adapting the 2014 British soccer documentary, which follows Dutch coach Thomas Rongen, who attempts the nearly impossible task of turning the American Samoa soccer team from losers to winners. Now, it's not dealing with heavy topics like Jojo Rabbit was, right? But we've even seen his other films get the talk. Something like A Hunt for the Wilder People, and that died down eventually, but I really hope Next Goal Wins is another win for Taika. I'm not seeing a lot of people talking about this particular film for Oscars, but he's the kind of guy, this cast is the kind of cast that makes me think there's a good possibility here. Now, if it wasn't for Inception, I wouldn't be putting Tenet on this list. I wouldn't even be fooling with Tenet, because it's a blockbuster. It is. It's a Christopher Nolan blockbuster, but Christopher Nolan can do both, right? He can make the big blockbuster films, but he can also make them so smart and brilliantly written that they're, in the discussion for the Oscars at the end of every year, right? A movie like Inception was, a movie like Dunkirk was. Now, that's a war film. It's very different, but I think Tenet, if it is as good as we all think it's going to be, I think there's no way it's not in that discussion. I don't care if it's a blockbuster. If you're one of the best movies of the year, you deserve to be in the conversation, and that's what I'm hoping this is. And Nolan is a director that has somewhat been snubbed at the Oscars a little bit. He's deserved way more than he's gotten, but you look at this cast, and Robert Pattinson and Elizabeth Debicki, and obviously John David Washington from BlacKkKlansman, and the fact that it's revolving around espionage, it's time travel, this says evolution. I mean, it's everything you want a movie like this to be. So I hope it works. Inception got the Best Picture nomination. Can Tenet do it? I really hope so. And last but not least, you have a prime Oscar release date, December 18th. You have Steven Spielberg, need I say more? And you have a cast in Ansel Elgort and a couple of new people here and there, but Corey Stoll. It's West Side Story. It's West Side Story. This was the remake I was talking about, obviously, the 1957 musical. But you have a director like this, and bringing it into today's filmmaking style with the technology that we have and the ability to do something new and hopefully fresh with this story. If it's not fresh, then this was a bust. He's not going to get it, but is Steven Spielberg doing West Side Story? I mean, how you not put this on the list, right? It's either going to be In the Heights or this. One of those two. I think it's going to be West Side Story. It could be both, absolutely, but this one just screams, maybe more so than any of these movies, a Best Picture nomination. So to run back through my 10 one more time, it's the untitled David O. Russell film Dune, Greyhound, Bad Blood, Mank, The Trial of the Chicago 7, The French Dispatch, Next Goal Wins, Tenet, West Side Story. Those are my 10 movies that I see with really good potential, but look at how far out we are. We literally have a year until the Oscars. I am crazy to think that I have half of these right, but this was so much fun. And a lot of these movies, doing the research and talking about these films, have actually moved into my most anticipated films of the year. And before starting this video process, I didn't know some of them existed. So this was just as awesome for me as hopefully it was for you. If you're still around, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Let me know if you would like to see me tackle the other categories. I would love to do that. You guys are truly the best, having so much fun making videos like these. And I'll see you very soon.